10 years ago, it's crazy that I'm saying this right now, but 10 years ago, it was 2015, and I can confidently say at the time, in my personal opinion, I think Dodge was at the top of the American automakers. They just released the insane 707 horsepower Dodge Challenger Hellcat. With that, they released the Dodge Charger Hellcat. With that, they also redesigned the Ram, and they had the most futuristic looking truck on the market. This is Austin from the future, and I need to say that I made a massive mistake. The Ram was redesigned in 2019, not 2015, so it's still 6 years old. It's not 10 years old. Either way, it's still really, really old, but my apologies. A couple of times in this video, I mentioned this Ram's 10 years old. It's 6 years old. Back to the video. 10 years later, that truck still looks exactly the same. However, they ripped out the V8 that used to be in the Ram, and it is now replaced with a 3-liter inline-6 twin-turbo Hurricane. Let's find out if the Ram 1500 is still relevant in 2025.
Hello everyone and welcome to Performance on Wheels. My name is Todd. My son Austin and I, we make all sorts of videos on all sorts of different cars. Join us today by hitting that like and subscribe button as we check out the 2025 Ram 1500.
Now, Ram was teasing us pretty hard on their socials for the new 2025 Ram 1500 that it was going to be a full-on big redesign, but ladies and gentlemen, here is the new 2025 Ram 1500, and it actually looks almost identical to the new 2015 Ram 1500, but unlike the 2015 Ram 1500, you can't get a 5.7 liter V8 in it. You can't get a 6.2 liter supercharged Hellcat in it anymore. You can get the 3.6 liter Pentastar V6, or like this one has, the 3 liter inline-6 twin turbo Hurricane. This one is the SO, but there's also the HO, and coming soon is the Tungsten, which is like a crazy hybrid setup, and we'll have a video coming out on that in the near future.
Now, Austin's comments are slightly dramatic. There are things that are new for 2025. We do have some like slightly redesigned headlights as well as taillights. And if you look at the front of the Ram from the side, you can see that the top of the grille actually tilts out a little bit. Give it that chest out. I'm at the gym. I just did chest day kind of design. But anyways, because we're on that inline-6 twin turbo, we have the SST, the straight 6 turbo, but it should be SSTT because it's a twin turbo in the Hurricane here, right? And we're over 400 horsepower. We've got well over 400 pound-feet of torque. Very similar numbers, and we'll get into this in just a second, as our friends over at Ford have been doing in their 3.5 liter EcoBoost for many years at this point. But you can tell the SST apart here on the 2025 Ram because it has these amazing bulge, like heat extraction, massive plastic, just vents to suck all that air out, except they are completely fake. And all we can find as far as airflow is potentially a drain that just drains water so it doesn't collect in the valleys of the molding. And that's true for not only the fake heat extractors on the front, but also across the call.
I mean, hey, it does look pretty aggressive though. However, bringing up that friends over at Ford thing, let's talk about our friends over at Chevy as well. Both the Chevrolet Silverado and the Ford F-150 since 2015 have undergone a few redesigns. They've dramatically changed the look of these trucks, but the Ram still looks pretty much the same, I think it's safe to say. Like, if you were to put this right next to the previous model year, I think the average person is not going to be able to tell these two trucks apart. So, does this new motor truly make this truck still relevant in 2025? I think we need to drive it to find out. Before we get into any type of flooring it or seeing what kind of power the Ram has, I just want to like slowly drive it around town here, see what it's like to drive, see what it's like behind the wheel, and ultimately see how it feels compared to the outgoing V8 variant. And I can tell you right off the bat, just cruising at about 50 miles an hour here, just how much smoother this powertrain was. Now, the Hemi had what's known commonly as the Hemi tick. You could always hear that V8 quite often. And also, it just had a little bit more rumble to it. It was a little bit more aggressive when you put the pedal down. It was a little bit more aggressive when it downshifted. This is a super, super smooth powertrain. It reminds me a lot of the 3.5 and the F-150 when it comes to being just a really comfortable spot to be, in the sense where it feels like a luxury car. Like, it's way more luxurious feeling than the V8 Rams ever felt, and it's even more refined feeling than the 3.6 Pentastar, how that feels. I'm gonna go ahead and slow down a little bit here and floor it and see just how it feels as it downshifts and what it has for get up and go here. So let's floor it from about 35. A lot of torque, comes on heavy around 4,500. Was that about 5,700 RPM I saw, red line, just under 6,000 red line. Definitely quick. I would say it feels quicker than the 5.7 Hemi did, absolutely. And it does it even smoother than the 5.7 Hemi ever did. It would be an absolute shame of me to not share these beautiful Minnesota views with you guys. It is currently October here in the state of Minnesota, and my goodness, it is the most beautiful time to be outside. It is just fantastic. This fall weather, I could not be happier with it. We're gonna hit the Ram from a stop. Wow, spinning it. Spun its way through first and second. I would guess that was about a 5.5 second 0 to 60 sprint, maybe a little bit closer to 6, but definitely quick. We're in a little bit colder temperatures today, and it's a big truck with no weight in the bed. So it's definitely very quick, lots of torque. I think you're gonna be very, very happy with the power. It is faster than the 5.7 Hemi. It does not sound as good as the 5.7 Hemi. Gonna hit it from about 20 here. Spun the tires even there, second gear. It is super quick. Like, you're not going to be disappointed with power. If that's something that you're upset about, if you're mad that they got away from the V8 thinking that this is going to be less powerful, I can promise you that you're incorrect in that statement. It is much quicker feeling than the 5.7 felt, in my opinion. Very, very quick powertrain. I would argue that behind the wheel feel, it feels faster than a 3.5, maybe similar to a Power Boost F-150. Very impressive. I'm thoroughly impressed with the power delivery of this motor. Let's go ahead and pop the hood and see what it looks like. Before we start talking about in depth this twin turbo Hurricane motor, I need to give a huge shout out to Apple, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram for supplying the Ram that we used in today's video. If you guys are looking for the best deal on a new Ram, be sure to check out the link down in the description below, or fly here to Shakopee, Minnesota, where I can assure you, you're gonna find one of the best deals on a new truck that you can find on the market right now. Now that we're done driving these Hurricane 3-liter twin turbo, Dad, what do you think? Getting behind the wheel of this thing.
420 horsepower, 469 pound-feet of torque. It is fun, right? It's got smooth power delivery. I love the fact that it's got a variation of the ZF 8-speed, which I think Ram introduced that. It was either 2013 or 2015 when they actually got away from their junky transmissions and switched over to the ZF. Big fan of those. So I like that powertrain from that regard. But there's just there's parts of it that we're going to this motor, Ram, because it needs to be more fuel efficient, and you're introducing it, Ram, to be like the cream of the crop, when at the end of the day, your main competitor over at Ford has had a motor that's got very similar horsepower, has better towing capacity if spec'd appropriately. What we're looking at here is 11,500, 11,600 pounds. That's essentially where a 3.5 liter EcoBoost F-150 starts, and the EcoBoost goes up to 14,000 pounds.
Yeah.
So my point here is and you talk about gas mileage really quick, right? So you're thinking that you're doing this because you have to save the environment, and that's what Mopar and Ram and Dodge have been saying. We have to go all EV to save the environment. And ultimately, you've produced a truck that it's very nice. I'm a huge fan of inline sixes, always have been. But it's not like there's anything special with the gas mileage. We're talking low 20s on the highway, and we're talking mid-teens around town. Exact same as what we're experiencing on a V8 F-150. So there's not these massive improvements that you would expect for such a dramatic change of getting rid of the V8.
Now, when we do talk about comparing this to the V8, however, there's a couple of things that I would like to point out, starting with the exhaust sound. Now the Hurricane, as you can hear, sounds as quiet as a mouse. This thing's super quiet. It's very, very tame. Now, Dodge in the past has never been known to be like this. Like, they put a little snort in all of their cars. They always have a little bit of growl to them. This thing's super quiet, super tame. But what is very cool about that, driving this around town, especially compared to the 5.7, is how smooth the powertrain is at all times. It always has this very smooth power delivery. The power comes on nice. It never shifts too dang hard. They did something with the transmission tuning in this Hurricane that truly made this so much more luxurious feeling of a powertrain than the 5.7 previously did. And with how quiet it is, I think it is very comparable to a 3.5 F-150 when it comes to overall comfort and driving around. And I think the 3.5 F-150 is right up there with luxury cars with how nice they drive.
Yeah, there was a point in time when I thought the Ram had the best interior out there. Now it's been the same for a while, so it's just, you know, it's kind of aged a little bit, but it's still a very nice interior.
Extremely nice interior.
But
yeah, I mean, we recently made a video of the Ram TRX versus the Ford Raptor R. And ultimately, I think we like the driving experience of the Raptor R more, but the interior of the Ram just still blew the Ford out of the water. And it's still the same designed interior, just different materials all over the place.
Yeah, you're right.
So it's a really well-designed interior. I think it's ultimately personal preference. If you like this one more, if you like Chevy's more, if you like Ford's more, they're all really, really good. They all have really, really good infotainments as well. Ford's still rocking Sync. I'd assume they're going to switch over to Google soon. Chevy's rocking Google, and Ford here is still rocking a variation of their Uconnect system, which at the time of when it originally came out was known to be the best on the market.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do want to back up for a second to the exhaust note that you brought up. So you look at the back of this truck and ultimately you see the exact same dual tips that you would have seen from the Hemi, the 5.7, right?
Yeah.
The big V8 rumble out back. But ultimately, as Austin said, there's like hardly any sound coming out this. And if you follow this back, obviously it's an inline 6, so we don't necessarily have a manifold on each side of the motor. We just have one exhaust tube, one exhaust pipe until we get just before the rear axle, and this massive muffler is there. And then that's when we split to go out to each side of the rear bumper.
I'd be curious to see what this thing sounds like by doing a muffler delete on it. However, being a twin turbo car, I'd assume it is actually decently quiet. It's probably pretty muffled. However, working on this thing, like looking under the hood right here.
It's a lot of room.
There's actually a ton of room under here. Like, I made a video previously talking about how I think this is going to be an easier motor to work on than the 5.7. I think I still stand by that. Like, both turbos, I could wrap my hand around right now. Like, super accessible, both of them sitting right here. The whole side of the motor is fully accessible. Take off this plastic cover. Inline 6s are known to be super easy to work on. So in reality, this could be a really, really easy motor to work on. However, this motor has not been out long enough for us to know reliability ratings. With inline 6 layouts of the past and based on other manufacturers, this is usually a really, really proven layout when it comes to reliability. However, this is Stellantis that we're talking about. Maybe they managed to screw something up. We won't know until the future, but I think an inline 6 is a hard motor to screw up. They used to make some of the best ones out there in the old Jeeps, so I'm really hoping that we're onto something like that again.
Let's just stick with the motor for a minute, because that's really the biggest talking point on the 2025 Ram, the 1500. Like, Austin, we've spent a lot of time in the F-150.
Tons.
Right? We've all sorts of time in the F-150. And our sleeper videos have done fantastic, putting a Whipple supercharger on a factory 5-liter V8. And that's a lot of fun. That's like a 0 to 60 time in 4 seconds flat.
And this is crew cab variant, by the way.
Right. So we're talking about like extreme sports car performance out of a pickup truck. Now, I fully believe that this is the huge talking point of the Hurricane here if we're talking performance. And hopefully they give us a short box regular cab variant.
They won't. I don't think they will.
I don't care. I'm still going to wish and I'm still going to hope, and I'm going to say it in this video that they do it, because there's a lot of good things about this motor, right? So this is, again, a twin turbo inline 6. It's considered already right out of the gate the most powerful 6-cylinder in its class. And it's built with cast aluminum block. There's forged steel crankshaft. There's also forged steel connecting rods. There's also some fun stuff that's like spraying the bore. It's coating the cylinder walls for not only performance but longevity, and also some high pressure fuel injection. So like putting a tune on this, putting bigger turbos on it, I have a feeling that the internals are already ready to go for some more horsepower. I have a feeling that these inline sixes with the turbos on them, as they continue to get built and produced, there's going to be some pretty wild builds coming.
I would agree, and Dodge just actually recently released this motor as a crate motor available to the public that people can start buying and swapping into things. And with its smaller package than the previous V8s, with still making the same, actually even more power, I'm very curious to see the swaps that are going to happen in the future with this motor and drivetrain, because in reality, I think at the moment, from just purchasing a crate motor from the manufacturer, this is probably the smallest package you can get for this kind of power. And now, how you brought up that 5-liter Whipple that did a 4-second 0 to 60 in the crew cab variant. Now, this, with the HO motor, is actually just as quick stock.
Yeah, a little bit slower, but they're saying, the people that have reviewed one already and done some 0 to 60 testing, that the high output version of the inline six will hit 60 at like 4.5, high 4 seconds. But still, that's right in line with a 700 horsepower V8. The one that we're sitting in the bed of currently, you expect right around a 5-second 0 to 60 time, very respectable. And we're also talking about a high 13-second quarter mile, right around 100 miles per hour. So for a half-ton pickup, you're really boogieing.
Now, all this talk about this motor gets me actually really excited for a vehicle that's coming in the very near future, the Dodge Charger Daytona. Now, not only does the Dodge Charger Daytona come in an EV, but they come in the 6-pack, HO. So you're gonna get this motor in the Dodge Charger Daytona. I know we don't have weight numbers yet. I'd assume it's gonna be a big, heavy car.
It will.
But there could be a lot of tunability in the 6-pack variant of the Dodge Charger Daytona with this motor. I definitely miss the V8s, but if this motor is done right and Stellantis somehow manages to come out of this massive rabbit hole that they've kind of put themselves down, and this motor just randomly starts doing some crazy numbers, they might be able to dig themselves back out. I guess only time will tell for that.
I have a feeling that is what the case is going to be. $70,000 MSRP on the Laramie in today's video, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning into the video today on Performance on Wheels. Comment down below your thoughts on the V8 being dead in the Ram.